The Assembly will hear an address by His Excellency José Raúl Mulino Quintero, President of the Republic of Panama. I request protocol to escort His Excellency and invite him to address the Assembly.
Muy buenas tardes.
A very good afternoon, Madam President, honorable heads of delegation, ladies and gentlemen. Just over 2 months ago, I assumed the presidency of the Republic of Panama. Over the next 5 years of my mandate, I will have to face down on behalf of all Panamanians major challenges, several of which affect not only my country, but the hemisphere as a whole. Our privileged geographical position has made us a bridge between and a meeting point for the Americas. We had the first railway to connect the Atlantic and the Pacific on our continent, the first customs office of the continent, and the first in Tierra Firme, the first Spanish city in the form of Tierra Firme. Our canal and our airport hub have made us strategic partners for all countries of the world. As things stand, our canal serves 180 maritime routes. These connect 1,920 ports in 170 countries. And that means that we are a major value add for products from throughout the world. Cognizant of our importance as a meeting point, our doors have always been open to all nationalities who, fair and square and playing cleanly, wish to harness the competitive advantages we have as our shield states, a country pro mundi y beneficio for the world. But today, Panama is facing a colossal problem as a result of its strategic location. Illegal immigration through the Darien Gap, which is being used as a gateway by hundreds of thousands of migrants and has been for some time. Migrants that are fleeing the grave political, economic and social problems they face and seeking the so-called American dream. I know that territory very well because just over a decade ago, when I was Panama's Minister for Security, I led the forces who took back the Darien Gap from the narco guerrilla. Today, it is a source of great pain to witness the social tragedy that is this treacherous journey, a journey embarked upon by women, children, and elderly persons who begin an inhumane crossing over rivers, jungles, and inhospitable corners. They face myriad risks to their very security in so doing. This movement of people is led by criminal organizations with bases in neighboring countries, organizations that receive dirty money to make a profit from the hope and needs of thousands of human beings. I fully understand how hard it is to decide to migrate to escape the poverty and oppression that one may experience in their place of origin. The vast majority of people wish to live, develop, and progress in the land where they were born. Let me say it again, causes are well known, but alone we cannot tackle them. We are already facing too many social and financial problems as a nation. We do not have the resources or the material possibilities to solve the migration crisis alone. Illegal migration through Panama is part of a colossal global problem, and it must be in the United Nations where this problem is front and center of an agenda. We are proud of being a country which connects myriad global trade routes, but we will not agree to be used as a transit point for illegal immigrants, because that brings with it social, human and environmental costs for our territory. Panama is today paying a high environmental cost as a result of that illegal flow of persons. they are causing severe damage to our biodiversity. I want to say to you that there is a huge difference between analysing this problem from within forests such as this in the midst of Manhattan. There's a great difference between that and being a first-hand witness of the drama that as I have been. Seeing children being orphaned by the harshness of a crossing through the jungle would wreak havoc and tear apart the soul of the coldest analyst who was to study these questions from the comfort of an office. These aren't standalone problems for the Darien Gap, or to give you another example, for the Mediterranean. What we're talking about is a complex system of organised crime that is making profit from human misfortune. In 2023, the Darien Gap saw the entry of more than 500,000 illegal immigrants. That accounts for, or is equivalent to, 12% of Panama's total population. If the same thing had happened in the United States, that would have meant the entry of 40 million illegal immigrants in 1 year. In other words, a number 20 times higher than that seen today. Another example, Italy. They also have a grave migrant problem. Last year, indeed, around 150,000 people entered the country illegally. If we were to scale this up to Panamanian proportions, we'd be talking about the entry of 7 million people illegally to this European country. Ladies and gentlemen, what I'm asking you is to really take stock of the magnitude of what's happened, because our sense is that we don't have the international support that we need to face a situation which is so distressing from a humanitarian point of view, so costly from a financial perspective, so perilous for our security, and so alarming if you look at the environmental devastation which it leaves in its wake. And it's precisely this environmental destruction that I want to talk about now. Darien is one of the largest neotropical forests in the world. When 500,000 people pass through it and leave tons of waste over the years, some of which is highly polluting, such as batteries and plastic waste, that has serious environmental consequences. Moreover, and it's painful to say the following, decomposing bodies are left by the side of the road or in rivers. Not everyone survives this horrific 20-day odyssey through the jungle. It falls to Panama to address a problem which is not our own, but we do what we can with the resources that we have. No one could visualize, far less would they accept, 500,000 people leaving rubbish and waste without any type of planning or proper management in the Black Forest in Germany or in the Yellowstone National Park here in the United States. 500,000 souls, irregular migrants, moving without documents or oversight. Perhaps the reason for the lack of outrage at a global level at the devastation of our Darien region, the major green lung of the region, is because it is in an inhospitable corner of the border between Panama and Colombia. I do understand that part of the responsibility for this situation falls on the shoulders of previous governments in our country that did not show the resolve or the strength necessary to place this issue on the global agenda. But that has all changed. This president will speak out about this problem and will use every international forum to demand a shared effort to halt the flow of illegal migration. Madam President, in Panama today, we have the new border of the United States because Darien is the corridor traveled by those who seek in this country a better life. Panama has always been on the side of peace and the progress of nations. Today needs the help and support of those countries that it has historically supported in this and other fora. We need concrete cooperation and full frontal cooperation to avoid our territory being used as the beginning of a dream which often is one trumped up by criminal organizations linked to drug trafficking and trafficking persons. Political instability is one cause of mass migration. When there are grave institutional crises that exist over time, their immediate consequence is the fleeing of their citizens. Venezuela is a specific example of the above. It is for that reason that I now want to talk about our regional political situation, which incidentally is the major driver of the migration crisis we're experiencing. The increasing breakdown of the Venezuela's institutional system has led to a stampede of 8 million Venezuelans, according to data from the UN Refugee Agency. Behind this figure is a genuine migration tragedy. International organizations haven't provided a resolute or credible response to this problem throughout the years. Recent events in Venezuela have further tarnished the country's already dishonored institutions. Let us be clear. Awarding oneself a triumph without publishing vote counts is like wanting to win a trial without presenting any evidence. Wanting to win without publishing vote tallies is like losing and not accepting the results. In fact, the current regime has lost the support of its staunchest defenders in the region, or, in the very best of scenarios, it has received fragile and tenuous support expressed only as silence. It is resoundingly clear that the current regime will not leave power, nor will it recognize its defeat. As such, I call upon the appropriate organizations to take resolute actions against the manifestly anti-democratic behaviors and attitudes seen. I want to emphasize here that this is not an ideological issue. We're not talking about a simple difference in schools of thought. What we're talking about is strictly heeding the people's will, that is the mother of all wills. Panama is open to dialogue with the rest of countries, any country in which there is respect for the political and representational system arising from every country's national constitutions. I'm bringing up the Venezuelan issue here because it's very difficult for me to talk about health and the environment when 8 million of our neighbors have been forced to flee their home, fleeing the poverty, besetting a country that should have been an economic power. How can we talk about regional sustainable development as we witness this interminable political crisis face the whole continent? I can't look at everything through a rose-tinted lens in my speech when what we have is the spilt crimson blood of immigrants risking their lives in our jungle pursuing a dream of liberty. As they move through the Darien Gap, they contaminate the region, leaving a trail of destruction and desolation in their wake, and it's up to us to pick up, repair, and pay for all of that. If you really care about sustainable development, I ask you as member states to staunchly defend the environment and establish precise mechanisms to redress the damage that has occurred in the Darien Gap. I'm talking not only about the environmental damage, but I'm also asking you to tackle the causes that led to this migration, such as the self-proclaimed triumph of the current Venezuelan regime. As a third point, I want to talk about the unjust discriminatory lists that my country has been placed upon, lists that are cobbled together by tyrannies and which put us together with tyrannies that have committed the worst atrocities. We are put on lists with countries that don't open their doors to the world, that don't respect democracy, that foster terrorism. We don't agree to being part of these lists that are drawn up by the private interests of nations that themselves can't succeed in being competitive or attractive to their fellow citizens. Panama will not allow this affront, far less after all the efforts we've made. We've made significant reforms to our financial and legal systems in recent years to meet the most stringent standards of transparency and prevention of money laundering and other organized crime. But that hasn't been enough. Our nation has demonstrated its readiness to work with international organizations, and we've signed many tax information exchange treaties with myriad countries. That wasn't enough either. As a consequence, the measures that we've been forced to take whilst waved in front of us has been the false promise of being delisted. These measures have been catastrophic for our economies. And yet we still haven't been able to get ourselves removed from these reckless lists. Panama is not a tax haven, nothing like it. The people that are tax havens are those other jurisdictions allied with the countries that promote these lists. Those countries are analysed and measured by different standards to those used for my country. It's quite paradoxical, but the nations that approved Panama's inclusion on these lists use our canal. They participate in public tenders, they make money from consultancy services, and they lobby their businesses to get juicy contracts in our country. This president has taken the firm decision to not allow the businesses of countries that endorse these lists to participate in international tenders. Neither will those very same countries benefit from our vote in international fora. At the same time they point their finger at us, they've enjoyed benefits and have not suffered any restrictive measures. The aim of their bias is to ensure that despicable stigma continues to hover over Panama that is a responsible country when it comes to financial fair play. I want the best for my beloved Panama. I didn't accede to the presidency to make other countries feel good. I did so to meet my country's demands. Talking of lists, I want to tell you that Panama is one of the countries in the world that is carbon negative. In other words, we remove more carbon dioxide from the atmosphere than the CO2 we emit. But this glittering status has brought us no benefit whatsoever. Vast swathes, of our territory is protected, and that brings with it major challenges in terms of achieving genuine development. Today, countries that utterly destroyed their biodiversity for the sake of development force other developing countries to abide by standards of environmental care that they dismissed. This produces an imbalance in terms of opportunities for progress. On the one hand, we're forced to maintain our forests in a primary state, and on the other hand, fingers are pointed to us and we're placed on lists which make it difficult for investment to arrive and which stymie the development of a globally competitive financial system. We do not accept the rules of this game. I want to reiterate the message I delivered when I assumed the presidency. I said there and I'll say now, Panama is an ally of good causes, and we will no longer allow fingers to be pointed at us unjustly in such a way that harms our economic capacity, our prestige, and in a way that besmirches the very image of our country. I'd like to say to you what an honour it is for the Panamanian people to become non-permanent members of the Security Council, as we will do in January this year. That will be the 6th time in history. That accolade is the fruit of sustained work over time. We've been given that seat because of our country's work to fight against terrorism, to fight trafficking in persons, and to fight drug trafficking. Panama contributes to peace and concord between peoples. I am sorry for hammering home this point again and again and again, but all of this is completely impossible to reconcile with the aforementioned list. We can't accept that a country whose conduct is unimpeachable and a country that works in favour of peace, freedom and international security be lumped together and tarred with the same brush with those who do quite the opposite. We're placed on arbitrary lists that don't tally with reality. All of that is genuinely unacceptable. We'll continue fighting peacefully and doggedly to put an end to this unnecessary and discriminatory harassment at the hands of countries that would never abide by the same conditions we are forced to. To conclude, I'd like to say that we'll continue building a country that is at the service of humankind. We'll care for our biodiversity in the face of adversity. We'll defend our democracy in spite of concrete threats today hovering over our region. Panama will continue connecting global trade, fighting for freedom, being a part of the world, and calling for the respect that we give and the respect that we deserve as an upstanding nation. We are a noble working people, and we'll fight every day to make this world a better place to live. Distinguished members of this organization, Madam President, on behalf of Panama and all of the Panamanian people, many thanks for this opportunity.
On behalf of the Assembly, I wish to thank the President of the Republic of Panama.